Hoping you have had a fantastic week. Welcome to another edition of AFCON Highlights, where I'll be taking you through some of the major highlights of the games that were played this past week. A lot of activities took place. That is, a lot of drama was experienced in the first week of the AFCON tournament. The following are just some of the things that stood out for me. Nigeria beat Egypt in the first game that they played, the group game that they played. Apart from that, one action or one activity that was the topic of discussion both locally and internationally was the game between Tunisia and Mali, where the officiating referee, that is Gianni Sikweze, blew the whistle two times, that is on the 85th minute and on the 89th minute. That's a discussion that I'm going to be having on the show later on with my analyst, that is Eric Shilenje. Just before we get into the topic of discussion, I just wanted to give you an overview of some of the games that were played this past week. And in case you missed it, this is how the fixtures stacked up from the first day of the AFCON tournament. The following are just how the results were. That is Senegal versus Zimbabwe. The game ended 1-0 in favor of Senegal, courtesy of a last minute goal by Liverpool star, that is Sadio Mane. The other game that was played this past week was Guinea versus Malawi. The game ended 1-0 in favor of Guinea. The other game that was also played, that is Morocco versus Ghana. Ghana lost their first group game against Morocco 1-0. Away from that, Comoros versus Gabon. The game ended 1-0 in favor of Gabon. Despite the fact that Gabon were missing their key man, that is Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, who's going to be making a comeback into the team. Later this week, he was seen as he had resumed training with the team. So we are hoping that he's going to be appearing in the game between Gabon and Ghana. Away from that particular game, the other result was Algeria versus Sierra Leone. The game ended 0-0, courtesy of a strong team, that is courtesy of the star man of that particular game, who was Camara, who came on top of that particular fixture and was able to deny Algeria the much-deserved goal in that particular game. On paper, Egypt seemed to be the favorites in their tie against Nigeria, but Nigeria ended up winning that particular group game. The other game that was played this past week was Sudan versus Guinea Bissau. The game ended 0-0. There's no winner in that particular game. The other game that was played is Ivory Coast versus Equatorial Guinea. The Ivorian team, that is also known as Cote d'Ivoire, won that particular game against Equatorial Guinea. The other game was Gambia versus Mauritania. Going into this particular game, Gambia were seen as on paper, Mauritania looked like they were going to be winning that game, but Gambia came on top of that particular fixture. The other games that were played, there are so many, and I'm going to take the much deserved time to give you all the results because you might have missed on. That is Cape Verde versus Burkina Faso, which was a game that was played yesterday. Burkina Faso won 1-0 against Cape Verde. And finally, as we wrap up some of the games that were played this week, that is the hosts, Cameroon, were able to beat Ethiopia 4-1. There seemed to be a bit of a problem with that particular fixture, but Cameroon were able to come on top of their tie against Ethiopia. Still sticking to some of the games that were played, that is the final game that was played this week. As I have mentioned, the other game that was played was Cape Verde versus Burkina Faso. The game ended 1-0 in favor of Burkina Faso. That is just some of the results scores that I wanted to give you just before we take a segue into the topic of discussion today. Now, the world all over, there was a confusion in the game between Tunisia and Mali when the officiating referee, that is Gianni Chikweze, blew the final whistle 2 times. That was on the 85th minute and on the 89th minute. As a result of that, most football fans were thrown into confusion because this was a highly experienced referee who has had the opportunity also to officiate in Russia during the 2018 World Cup. The following is just a tweet that was posted by Sky Sports, and the tweet read that, "Have you ever seen anything like it? Referee ends match early. Press conferences interrupted as AFCON officials say match must resume. Referee changed for final 3 minutes. Tunisia failed to return to the pitch." We don't see such an activity so much in football, and I think that is why a lot of people were confused with what was going on in that particular game. And joining me in studio for the 18th time, that is our African football analyst, that is Eric Shilenge, is back with us here in studio to make sense of some of the activities that took place. Shilenge, welcome again to this particular AFCON analysis. Before we talk about some of the games that took place this past week, that particular drama between Tunisia and Mali, what did you make of that?
I think it's a situation, a very unfortunate situation that Gianni Chikweze put Africa in. He's a very experienced referee. Looking at his stats earlier, he's officiated high-profile matches like the AFCON 2017 final between Egypt and Cameroon. He also did the FIFA Club World Championship between the final, that is it, between Real Madrid and Kashima Handlers in 2016, and he's really performed better in his past games. It's just unfortunate for what happened to him on this Tunisia versus Mali game, though he is alleged that he was facing thirst. The temperature was too high for him. That's why he was blowing the game earlier, for him maybe to get some glass of water. But I think that doesn't warrant him to blow the whistle twice. Yeah. In fact, in between the whistles, in the 87th minute, he awarded a red card to a Malian player. Yeah. The video assistant referee intervened, but he could not change his decision. And in most cases, we know that when the VAR makes a call, the referee is expected to change the decision because they assume he might not have seen it during this first officiating. So it's very unfortunate for that, though it doesn't mean that it's a very isolated case in football. I think Sky Sport are just making fun of it because there are usually other instances that do happen in the European football, but in most cases they don't talk about them. Yeah, they're likely to amplify the ones that happen in Africa. So yes, there was a mistake, but I think it doesn't warrant for Sky Sport to go shouting about it, making fun of it. No.
Interesting you mentioned that, because that was going to be my next segue. In terms of the coverage of African sports, it's not, this whole conversation is not only limited to African sports. It also covers other cadres of African matters. You find that Africa has been portrayed as a continent full of chaos. There's fighting left, right, and center. You are a journalist like myself, and the conversation that people are having is, whenever there are highlights about good things that are happening, especially on the Sky Sports social media platforms, they are not available in your region, despite the fact that that is content that you would usually go for. For this particular one, this isolated incident, this particular drama apparently was open. So how can we as journalists play our part in terms of portraying the right way of African football?
It's really a matter of a wake-up call to the African media fraternity, like what do we show of our continent, what kind of reporting do we put forward, especially in terms of sports, because we've seen so many matches, even the UEFA Champions League finals where we have pitch inversions. But interestingly, you never see those shots. You'll just come to see the images later on. But the cameras will focus on different, the other different things happening on the pitch, maybe the fans' reaction and everything. But the unfortunate, ugly scenes that happen of pitch inversions, or maybe disagreements, they don't show them on camera. And they are really forgiven for that, because they try to protect their game, they try to shield their image, what goes out of their media, and that is what needs to happen to Africa, because these incidences are not isolated. They don't happen only in Africa, they happen all over. But for we choose to show them out to the world, which is really brings chaos and bad image to Africa. So it's a really a big wake-up call to the media fraternity in Africa. What do we showcase to the world? Okay.
As members of the fourth estate, we do have a big responsibility in terms, as Shilenja said, we do have a big responsibility in terms of what we put out there, because what we put out there ends up creating the perception that people create about us as a country and us as a continent. Shifting gears away from that, a lot of highlights took place in the AFCON tournament this week. I think we'll start with the ones that took place earlier in the week. A result that many people did not expect, Nigeria beating Egypt. That's a scoreline that nobody was expecting. Very quickly, because I think this is a conversation we've had with you, very quickly, do you think Nigeria are a team to watch in this tournament?
First of all, before we get there, I think it will be very well to mention other highlights that really matter to us as Kenya. We had our referees officiating the game. That is Dr. Peter Oweru, who was an assistant referee to the Comoros versus Gabon game. He did a very exemplary job. Again, the other game, yesterday's game between Cameroon and Ethiopia, we had the same Peter Oweru, who was an assistant VR referee, as well as Isaac Cheriot, who was an assistant referee. I think those are very good news for Kenyans, for our game. When they go out, they come back with a lot of experience that can really help to improve our game. They really made us proud, even if Kenya didn't make the Harambee Star didn't make it to go to Cameroon. That one aside, Nigeria did an exemplary job trying to put away the Egypt threat, because going into the tournament, Egypt were clear favorites as a team to make it to the finals or possibly win the tournament. But the defeat to Nigeria must have really dented their confidence. They must have gone back to the drawing board to see how they are going to approach their other fixtures going into the tournament. Nigeria have really shown a very good game. They've shown their potential. They've stamped their authority over one of their title contenders. And I think the European-based players, they came into form. They lit up their game. And Nigeria should be a team to watch going forward.
In the AFCON tournament.
Yes.
I think one thing that stood out for me in the Nigeria versus Egypt game, what kept on going through my mind, is because despite the fact that the team is solid as it is, there are some players that apparently are not into their camp. Because you have somebody like Emmanuel Davies, who was not, for some reason, not able.
Yes, Emmanuel Dennis was injured. We have Victor Osimhen, a very top striker, who is also injured. We have Odio Nigalo, who was not released by his club Al Shabaab, and I wonder why they didn't release him. Might they have deployed him for another duty?
That's a good one.
but they still have top quality in their team. And what made me happy is their European-based players, because the other players from the other teams like Senegal, Egypt, they had really showed their blanks. They were nowhere to be seen. But for Nigeria, they had Kelechi Iheanacho, top striker for Leicester City, did a good job for them. And Ndindi in the midfield, and you can see the blend of the European Chikwueze, wow, Simon Moses, very good players. They shown that actually they are top quality. They are able to express themselves well on the field of play, and I think it was good to watch that game.
Okay. Since we're talking about Nigeria, the other game that is they are going to be playing against is going to be Nigeria versus Sudan. I think just so that we finish with Nigeria in this particular conversation, how do you fancy their chances going into this game? I know they've already beaten Egypt, but football has an interesting dynamic. You think you've won until you've not won.
Yes, it happens, but I think going into that game, the confidence of Nigeria is too high. They are into the moon. If you beat Egypt, one of the favorites, I mean, who other can stand in front of you? So they come into the game with a lot of confidence. Sudan drew their first game. Watching that game, Sudan offered nothing. Those are the teams I was talking about, who are very organized from the defense to the midfield, but in the final third, they offer nothing. They have no ambition. So unless Sudan does something maybe miraculous or change their game, yes, they don't have they don't stand a chance to defeat Nigeria. Nigeria have everything going their way as of the moment. It's up to them to see how they're going to pick their points. Are they going to score 2 or 3? It's upon them now, because
so it's not a matter of scoring goals, a matter of how many goals are we going to score in
I think on paper Nigeria should win. Should win. Despite of the scoreline, they should win, going by what they played in their first game.
Shilenje, one topic of conversation that most football lovers in the African continent are talking about is the lack of the reign of goals in the AFCON tournament. And I think Cameroon set us off in the right way, being the hosts by beating Ethiopia 4-1. By virtue of that, they are now having the leading goal scorer, that is Abubakar, from their front. More goals to expect from the tournament going into the second games of the tournament, of the groups?
Yes, I think so, especially in the group phases, this second round as well as the third round. I think we shall have situations where now teams have to risk. Yes, they need to qualify, but they're not going to qualify if they don't score. So they have to risk, they have to send players forward, because that is the problem we've had in Africa, that the managers are too conservative. They don't want to risk. You see, if you're not sending your players into the final third, if they're not playing into the box, how are they going to score? That is what has been really having problems. Or sometimes they are very blunt. The strikers, maybe when they go back to training, the coaches can try to sharpen their shooting skills, because you find some teams get clear chances, but they don't convert them into goals. And that is what has really been leading to the slim score lines of 1-0 or 0-0. Well, the other teams, like I was watching Ivory Coast, once they are leading in 1 goal, they do not show ambition of scoring other goals. For them, 1 goal is enough to win a game, which sometimes is very risky, because when you are leading 1 and you get equalized in the 90th minute, do you have the energy to start looking for another goal? You don't.
No energy.
You don't,
I think, speaking of that, when they score 1 goal, they relax. I think that's why I admire Pep Guardiola. When Pep Guardiola scores the first goal, that is like a go-ahead for him. Like, guys, go score.
He now comes for more.
Score more goals. We won't talk about how they beat Arsenal at the beginning of the season. That's a conversation for session. Shilenje, one of the teams that not many people were expecting to win, and I think we were talking about this when you're talking about the analysis of Mauritania versus Gambia. And somebody actually bashed us on social media. I mean, it's just football. We have no hard feelings about Gambia. That is our friend from Gambia who was watching our last discussion. We have nothing against Gambia. It was just a discussion, you know. Gambia are really, they having not been ranked well in the FIFA rankings compared to other teams in the tournament. They're actually coming out and they're like, hey, we are new in this tournament, we are here, but hey, you have to take notice of us in this tournament. How do you fancy their chances in this tournament?
For them, the win against Mauritania should be a very famous win for them, because they are making a debut in the AFCONs, and it's not very easy to win your first game when you're making a debut in a tournament, and they should be really commended for that. However, I'm not very sure of how they're going to perform going forward, given that, yes, they won against Mauritania, who is their neighbor in the West. They really played so many games against one another. They know one another very well. But now going into the other fixtures, they need more than what they did to win against Mauritania, thanks to Jallo's lone strike that was able to dispatch Mauritania. But I think for them to stand a chance of qualifying to the next phase of the competition, they need more than luck. They need to work harder than what they did against Morocco, because the other opponents are a bit of a better quality than Mauritania. They need to do more.
Shilenje, just briefly, let me give our viewers some of the table standings and how the teams stack up. The following is just how the table stands, and I'm going to start from Group 1. The following is just how the table stacks up. In Group 1, we have Gambia versus Mali. That is, no, sorry, not Gambia versus Mali, I beg your pardon. In Group A, we have Cameroon, Burkina Faso, Cape Verde, Ethiopia. Cameroon are currently leading that particular table with 6 points, followed by Burkina Faso, Cape Verde, and Ethiopia is at the bottom of that particular table. In Group B, we have Guinea, Senegal, Malawi, and Zimbabwe. In this particular group, Guinea is leading the table standings at the moment. In Group C, as of the time of the recording of, at the time of doing this analysis, that is Gabon, is leading the table, Morocco, Comoros, and then Ghana. Group D, we have Nigeria, Guinea Bissau, Sudan, and Egypt. And then Group E, we have Ivory Coast and Algeria. Finally, Group F, we have Gambia, Mali, Mauritania, and Tunisia. Shilenje, there are so many things that we could talk about in terms of each group, but I think that's something that you're going to be talking about right after the commercial break. When we take a short commercial break, after the break, we are going to be continuing the conversation on some of the highlights on week 1 of the AFCON tournament. See you after the break.